Okay, shkach everybody for coming. Shkach Rabbi Shana for arranging another follow-up to this shir. We started with procedures in Halacha and contraception, and Bez Hashem, we're going to try to pick up where we left off. It will maybe take like a 2-minute just chazar of the Ikar Nekudos that we went over last time, just so everyone's on the same page, right? Dam Mekar, right? We mentioned there's a whole shiloh what exactly the Mekar is, Halacha L'maisa, right? We came out that the uterus, right? That is where the dam Mekar, dam that's metame, comes from the rechem, what we call in Hebrew the rechem. And that is dam mekar, and we have over here the cervical canal, which is a short space where the dam goes through from the mekar and out to the base of chitzai. L'maisa, the cervical canal has two openings, an os interior and an os exterior. And L'maisa is a shiloh exactly where, what would we call the psichas hamekar. The pashtus, Moshe others say, and we'll see later, is the os interior, the internal os, one closer to the mekar, and not the one on the outside. That's the pashtus. Yeah. So Bez Hashem, we'll speak about it more. I'm trying to remember where we left off. We left off by Nuvering. We spoke about Nuvering at all? We did speak about Nuvering? Okay, so let's, Nuvering we saw is basically the end of the combination type of contraception. A Nuvering has both the estrogen and progesterone in it. It's the same exact thing as taking a pill orally. The milos of a Nuvering, as we mentioned, were that it has a very low dosage. The hormones are delivered directly. It doesn't have to make a first pass to deliver. It's not ingested. So memela, it has less side effects. On the milk supply if a woman is nursing. Some women feel different side effects from pills. A lot of women will find that the Nuvering is easier on the system because of that. Another major mila is that the hormones are delivered on a constant, even basis, as opposed to a pill, where you take a pill and it shoots up the hormones, high, and then slowly goes down. And this is a daily thing that a woman is experiencing, this up and down of hormones, right? So this kind of delivers it on a more even basis.
Is it a slow release?
It's a constant release. It's a ring that's inserted into Isay Malka by the woman herself, and it's got the hormones. It's like a patch. It just, instead of being on the arm, it's inside Isay Malka.
So how long does it last?
It lasts for 21 days, and after 21 days, the package says take it out and then put a new one in 7 days later. That's what the package says. During those 7 days, a woman will get her cycle, like we saw before when we saw the charts of the hormones. That a drop in hormones, specifically progesterone, is what causes a period, a cycle to come. So when she takes it out, that causes a drop in hormones, and that's what's gonna make her cycle come. As we mentioned already when we spoke about regular pills, you could link a Nuvering as well. That means a woman who doesn't want to get her cycle every month, she could take out after 21 days. She could take out the Nuvering because it runs out after 21 days. There's no more hormones in there. Maybe a few days left, if you forget. But officially after 21 days, it's out of hormones. So she could take out the ring and insert a fresh one right away and go for another 21 days because there was no break. There's no drop in hormones. And do that again. And you can do that for like 3-4 months. Most women around the 3-4 month break will start having breakthrough bleeding. Either she has breakthrough bleeding or not. It's probably advisable at that time to take it out for a week or 6 days. Let her cycle come and start again.
Will it take longer for a cycle to come?
It should not take longer. No, it should not take longer. Again, a drop in hormones is what causes a period to come. Now, it is important to speak about the halacha, and I don't know if we touched on this last time. The Nuvering does not act as a barrier, even though it's a barrier, right? Even though it's something that is inserted, it's a ring that is inserted by Samakam. We've heard, Rabbanim Darshan Barabim that it's also to use because it's like it stops the zera from going in. It's pashat taz b'mitzias. That's not how it works. It's simply
it sits in the makar?
it sits in the makar, and not in the makar. No, it sits in the beis achitzain. Right? It gets pushed up. She pushes it with her finger, and it kind of opens up inside. You fold it, push it in. It kind of opens up inside, and it sits. If you would look at the inside of the makar, we had that thing before. Right over here. This is perfect. Right, the cervix sticks out into the beis hachitzon a little bit. Looks like a donut sticking out into the beis hachitzon, and you have a little bit of space around it. So when it opens up, it kind of gets pushed in, and it's like a ring around the cervix, and that's where it sits. Right, the husband can't feel it; it doesn't get in the way of anything, and the woman herself could reach in and pull it
How
out.
does she know that it's in the right place?
There's no official right place. As long as it's in there, it's getting the hormones are getting delivered. It's like a patch, but that's the right place is because it's made to sit there because it's more comfortable there. But it's not. There's no official right place. As long as it's inside her body, her hormones are being delivered. There's nothing to worry about. So again, this is not a barrier. There's no shaila b'chlal of anything to do with the zera. The way this works is that it's the same as taking a pill. If a Rav is matter taking a pill, combination pill or whatever, contraception pill, he should be matter taking Nuvaring. There's no difference whatsoever. Now, another thing which is important in halacha is to take it out. L'chatchila should be taken out 4 times during the tahara process. It should be taken out during the hefsek tahara. It means that she put it in. Usually, she'll put it in. The first time she's putting it in, by the way, does anybody know when she's putting it in for the very first time? We spoke about a combination pill. When to start combination pill last time? What? The day of the strongest flow. Very good. Right, the beginning of the cycle, the day of the heaviest of the flow. That's when it's supposed to go in, which is shtickle uncomfortable. But Lamaisa, that's when she has to put it in. And it would stay. It's going to stay there for 21 days, which means it's going to be in there during the tahara process. So when she's ready to make a hefsek tahara, she has to take it out to make the bedika, put in the maich, and then after she takes out the maich, she can put it back in. The package says Nuvaring could be out for up to 3 hours without it making any adverse effects. So the hour or whatever it is, 72 minutes of a hefsek tahara, however long she's keeping it in, that's okay. If she thinks she's going to forget or whatever, even at least at the very least, just the hefsek itself should be done with it out. Even if the maich she's going to put it back in, it's not terrible. But if she can leave it out and she's not going to forget, then that's definitely better. The bedikas hamakvais, which is 1 bedika on Yom Rishon, 1 bedika on Yom Shvi, she should be makbet to take it out. And for tefillah, right, toveling, the Nuvaring is at least a chashash of a chatzitza. Halacha l'maisa, in any of these cases, different rabbanim hold, slightly different l'maisa, when push comes to shove, b'diavad, in all these cases it would probably be fine. Everyone should make their own shaylas chacham, but l'chatchila at least it should be taken out during these 4 times.
Why wouldn't it be a chatzitza?
Why would it not be a chatzitza? You have Moshe's Davuk. Moshe has a very interesting tshuva where he speaks about a chatzitza having to be something that is stuck, that is actually over here, because it's not really Davuk, it's just sitting in the beis achitzain. So according to Moshe, that wouldn't be a chatzitza. You also have the fact that it's slightly wet in there, which is also a tzad not to be a chatzitza. And lastly is the whole shaila of the beis achitzain, all the way up there has a din below or not. So you have like 3 at least snifim l'hakel that most paiskim will hold is not, at least b'diavad, is not mankel.
Context would be also.
Sorry?
Context would be the same thing.
conjure a whole separate shaila, but you definitely would have some of those sniff and lahakal. But again, this is a shaila that people should ask Shas Maisa. Okay. Now let's speak about mini pills. I think this is where we left off last time. A mini pill is a pill that only has one hormone, progesterone. That's why it's called mini. It's not because it's small. They're all small. All pills are teeny. This is, I guess, slightly smaller, but all it has is progesterone. The reason for this is because a woman who is nursing cannot have estrogen because estrogen will diminish her milk supply. So they give a nursing woman only a mini pill. Unfortunately, because they don't contain this balance of hormones, estrogen and progesterone, they are notorious for causing staining. At least every day, the Tarinu hotline gets a phone call of a nursing woman who's on mini pill that stains. Every single day. Guaranteed. This is probably from the most, this and we'll see later on, IUDs are the biggest cause for stainings amongst women. So the shaila is a few things. First of all, when do you start a mini pill? The best time to start really is 2 to 3 weeks after birth, so there's no lining. Once the lining starts growing a little bit, that's when it could sometimes cause issues. Some doctors don't like to give it so early. We've had doctors that say, no, you can't start before 6 weeks. Listen, if your doctor doesn't want to give it to you early, so, it's it's a problem. We found that if you start a little bit earlier than the 6-week mark, you have a better chance of not staining. Again, it's not guaranteed, but we've seen a lot of that work very nicely. Another thing that doctors like to do is to, instead of starting, officially it takes a week for it to work. Most pills officially take a week to start working, after, in this scenario, after birth. So if she's going to start the week before she's going to the mikvah, there's a good chance that the mini pill is going to cause staining and she'll never make it to the mikvah. So some doctors came up with a geschmack idea. Let her start the day after she goes to the mikvah. Like this, she'll already be tahor. And like that, she's already wearing tzivainim. Even if, a couple days down the line she stains a little bit, it won't make her tameh. That was one mahalach. And then the added thing that would have to be would be that she should use spermicides for the first week, because again, the pill takes a week to officially take effect. So if she uses spermicides for that first week, she's officially protected. L'maisa, we don't recommend doing this when it's dangerous for a woman to get pregnant, such as if a woman is after a C-section, where it's not just a sakana for her to get pregnant, within the first year, pashtos, or a woman has postpartum depression. These are things that can mamish, are a real sakana for a woman to get pregnant. Over there, you're better off taking it the week before, and there are other things there are other solutions out there for, for staining if staining happens.
Reason being because spermicides are unreliable.
Correct. Spermicides, and we'll get to that later, are the most the most unreliable type of contraception. We'll get to it, Bezos Shah. So again, when dangerous, you're going to start a week before the mikvah, and if Shitaka ends up staining, call the hotline. There are many solutions out there. We're not going to get to everything today, but there are solutions. Now, the most important advice that I could give everyone here, and I know we've mentioned this already in the previous year by a regular pill, if it was true by a regular pill, it's even double or triple true by the mini pill, and that is to take at the same time every day. This is, even 20 minutes can make a difference. We have women, I call again, on a daily basis, the hotline gets calls of women that are staining on the mini pill. And the first question that our advisors ask them is, are you taking the pill at the same time every day? It's crucial. crucial. So again, take the mini pill at the same time every day, and that will solve at least 50% of the problems. Okay. Let's move on. There are different types of contraception when it comes to hormones. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but you should know they're out there. There are patches and injections. Most of them only contain progesterone, although here there is a patch now that has both. Most of them only contain progesterone. They cause a lot of staining and should be avoided when possible. The injection, especially, there's an injection that's a 3-month progesterone injection that some women, the doctors tell them to take. This injection causes a fair amount of problems. Not only that, officially the injection is only good for 3 months, but the problems could last for like 6 months because it's still in the system a little bit, so it causes staining problems. But she's not protected anymore. So we tell women to stay away unless this is the only solution for her for whatever reason. Stay far away from injections. Okay. The next topic is the IUD. IUD stands for intrauterine device, or inside the uterus, right? A device that goes inside the uterus. There are a few types of them. There's a copper, which includes a copper T. A copper T is called that because it looks like a T. So it's this device that has copper over here. Some of them have copper on the hands also, on the top part. And it has copper. And it's pushed inside. It's inserted inside the actual makar, the rechem, the uterus. It's pushed inside the uterus. There's not something like, unlike the NuvaRing, which can be inserted by the woman herself. Is not done by a doctor, by the way. The NuvaRing this is a prescription that she gets it from the pharmacy and she puts it in herself at home. IUD is done by a doctor, and it's inserted into the actual makar, and it stays there. A copper one is good for up to 10 years. Many copper ones are good for up to 10 years. There's something called a Gynafix, which instead of having a T, has no T. It's just the copper part, and there's a string. At the top of the string is a little knot. And what the doctor does is he takes a needle and he pushes the knot into the roof of the uterus. The mile of this is that you don't have this T part that's rubbing against the sides of the uterus the whole time, which we'll see IUD is gefährlich for causing staining. We'll see at least in the beginning, first week or two, but it's more than that. It's also we'll talk about it in a minute. There's also something called the IUB, which is an intrauterine ball. And lastly but not least, there's the hormonal IUD, which is Mirena. Now they have Skylar, Liletta, there are a few different companies. The main one used to be Mirena, which looks like this. Instead of copper, there's hormones in it. Now, it's important to note, the Gynafix is currently not available in the US. It's available in Canada, it's available in Europe. We've had a few people that needed specifically this one. We sent them to Canada to get one inserted, or if they were going to Eretz Yisrael in the near future, they get one inserted over there. It's the mila for that is, let's say, a woman that in the regular T is a one size fits most. It's not like different sizes. So a woman that has a very big rechem that keeps on after, whether it's after many latest or whatever it is, and the IUD keeps on falling out, a way how to avoid that would be to put in the Gynafix where it's stuck inside, it can't fall out. Some doctors say, the data is not clear that there's less staining over here because it's not rubbing against the sides of the uterus like we have in in the copper T or in a Mirena or whatever it is. This, because it's just over there and it's hanging loosely inside, it's better on the staining. I don't know how true that is. We've definitely had cases that was so, but it's hard to know.
How do they work?
Huh?
How do they work?
How do they work? We'll speak about it right now. How does it work? Use this on. Let's see if this works.
Types of IUD cause mild inflammation of the uterine lining, which releases immune cells and chemicals that kill sperm. Hormonal IUDs also contain a synthetic type of progesterone called levonorgestrel. Levonorgestrel mainly prevents pregnancy by thickening the mucus inside the cervix, which prevents sperm from entering the uterus. It also prevents the uterine lining from thickening, so it is less likely to receive a fertilized egg.
Okay, so basically, the main way how the IUD works is by causing a slight inflammation inside the lining, inside the uterus, which attacks zera. That's mostly how it works. And you have also the Mirena, which works slightly better because it thickens the mucus and doesn't allow zera in. The body is a very interesting thing. The body, part of the Miflais Habayra, if you remember the charts, I don't have them on this slides. If you remember the charts of the hormones that we saw last time, the dominant hormone in the first half of the month was the estrogen, and then the second half is progesterone. Progesterone, after ovulation, soars up. Part of this is that as soon as a woman ovulates, the zera is allowed to go in. Okay, during ovulation, the mucus is slightly even thinner, allowing zera to pass through the cervix, through the cervical canal, and inside into the uterus, and go into the fallopian tube and meet the zera there and fertilize the zera. Now, right after ovulation, there's a climb. The body raises the levels of progesterone. Progesterone causes the mucus over here to thicken, not allowing any more zera or anything really to come inside the uterus. And this is bedafka to kind of seal it from any outside, if one of the zera is able to fertilize the egg, and we have a fetus, an embryo, so we want to keep the area as completely sterile as possible. So the Eibishter made it that it's sealed. Now the outside is sealed, and nothing could get in.
When does that happen again?
After ovulation. During ovulation, it's thinner. The mucus is thinner, and after ovulation happens on day 14. A day later, after ovulation, the levels of progesterone rise.
How many hours does it rise for?
It stays up till
No, I meant to say how many hours of the ovulation period?
after the ovulation.
Before it rises, the ovulation period. How many? Typically.
Ovulation is be'erech, they say 12 to 24 hours. And the egg is good for about that amount of time. So,
Doesn't Laura say that there's certain times in pregnancy that when they're together it's good for the blood?
yeah,
But it
so,
doesn't come in b'chol.
right, so you have to know what that means. I don't know, it could be the emotion, I don't know, it doesn't say what exactly is good. It's hard to understand every chazal. There's a lot of chazals that we have to understand. I have a very interesting pshat in Isha Kisas Yelda Zachar, which usually attached to the first to my first introductory shir, which we never got to. Maybe if there's time, if the Olam wants, we could do that. But that's a good question. So how does it look when we place a IUD? Basically, there's a different type of IUD that looks like this as well, which you could imagine also is not so easy on the walls of the uterus. The IUD is fitted inside a loading tube, and only once it's passed through the cervical canal, then the loading tube, it's pushed out of the loading tube, and they take out the loading tube. They just make sure it's properly placed. They take out the loading tube, and all you have left is a string. They cut the string, and that's how it's inserted. And then it's taken out by grabbing it from the string and pulling it out. That's
Stays there the whole time.
that string stays there the whole time. That string is not psichas hamakar. We're going to speak about psichas hamakar right now. Be'ezus Hashem. So it's not a psichas hamakar. The string, tahara-wise, can cause issues. If it's too long, we've had cases where a woman, they leave it a little bit out so a woman could check. How's a woman supposed to know? She can't get in there, right? We mentioned last year, there's no finger can get inside the makar, right? So how's a woman supposed to know if it's in there b'chlal or not? Maybe it fell out. She has no idea. It happens. They fall out. So they leave the string a little bit out. Besides for being able to pull it out, she could touch the string and see if it's still there.
Does the husband feel it?
The husband should not feel it. Derech klal. Again, it's not a hard string, but sometimes the string can poke the side, can cause like a little bit of inflammation or bleeding in the base of chitzon, right? And that's something that would not be mitame, but or masa bedikas and things like that.
The string is also copper?
The string is not copper, it's the string. No. The only copper part is the part on the IUD itself, on the inside part.
String is
Just a string.
That would last 7 years and moist.
Oh, it's not like that string. It's like a floss, like a plasticky string. It's like
It's hard.
It's not hard, but it's not soft. It's hard enough that if it could cause irritation. I wouldn't say poke. It could cause irritation. Now, here's another important aspect of the placement of IUD. Most doctors use what's called a tenaculum. We saw in the first year a tenaculum is an instrument that has sharp teeth that grabs the cervix. They grab the cervix, and the reason why they do it, as you saw, is to kind of allow the alignment of the cervix together with the uterus, and then they're able to stick in the IUD and place it like that. So this whole time there's two very sharp teeth that are grabbing onto the cervix. Here you see them cutting that string, and that is again, most doctors use a tenaculum to put in the IUD.
How long is IUD around about?
How
long is it around? 10 years, 5 years, 20 years?
it goes back. It goes back. Yeah. The hormonal one is more recent, but yeah, the IUD goes back. Yeah. I don't know how many years, but it's not a recent thing. Now, the important thing is this tenaculum, which is a very sharp two teeth that they use to grasp, as you can see here, the cervix, is mamish literally making a petza on the cervix, and the outside of the cervix is pashtas not considered makar. Mainstream psak holds that the cervix itself is not part of the makar. So here you have a maka that's vaday maitzi dam. I mean, that's not maitzi dam. There's a problem, and you have a pretty solid plia.
Does it hurt?
It is not pleasant. Does it kill? It doesn't hurt the same as if you would do this to your finger because there's less nerves. There's not, the nerves that we have on our epidermis on the outside are not on the cervix. But it's definitely not. But it pinches. It's not pleasant, but doesn't feel the same as on the outside. So let's talk about the psichas hamakar, which was mentioned. Right, the Gemara says, right, amapel chaticha b'loy dam, right, in a situation where there's no chashash for leida, right, yefshar lepsichas hamakar b'loy dam, right, and that is the makar for this halacha, right, of that every time that the makar opens up, we assume that there's dam in there. If you look at Rashi in very interesting. The mashmalas of Rashi in Tazria, Parshas Tazria, is gotten not like that. Sounds like Rashi argues. People say pshatim in it. If you want to look it up, it's in the beginning of Parshas Tazria. Rashi says, "Kimeini das dvaisa titma, kiseder kol tuma amura benida metamus betumas leida, afilu niftach hakever b'loidam." So it could be that over there, the Afka is talking about about Leda, but some people want to take out from this Rashi that Rashi holds that it's Shaykh Tumas Nido without it's Shaykh Psichas HaMekar without Dam. Now there's a Machlekes Rishonim. The Rambam is Mekel, but almost everyone else, the Raiva, the Ramban, Rajva, Rosh, the Oid are Machmir and hold that there's no such thing as Psichas HaMekar without Dam. So if you have a Psichas HaMekar, you assume that there was Dam, whether you saw Dam or not, and therefore a woman will be Tamid. The Shulchan Aruch paskins this Halacha L'maisa Yefshel Psichas HaMekar V'lo Dam. Halacha Psuka. Now, there's two things that we still have to talk about. First of all, what's the Shir HaPsicha? It's important to mention that if you would look, there's a procedure called a colposcopy, which is when they check for cervical cancer, they open up the outside and they just look with a microscope, with some sort of scope, a colposcope it's called, and they look at the cervix. We mentioned again, it looks like a donut from the outside, and they put some dyes on it to see if the tissue reacts to, to a certain way that would look like cervical cancer. Now, if you look at a cervix, it's always going to be open. A cervix is always slightly open. It's not shut tight. Not 100% of the time. It's not shut tight 100% of the time. It's always slightly open. So the shaila is when we say that there's psichas HaMekar, the psicha has to be an opening of the Mekar. The Mekar is already open. So it's got to be opening that Mekar more than it is already open now. Therefore, for example, a woman that's in her 9th month, right? Her Mekar is going to be even more open. For her to have a psichas HaMekar, you would have to open it more than it already is. Come on. Here. So again, right? The psichas HaMekar has to be that you're actually opening the Mekar. So shaila is how much is considered a psicha. Rav Maisha, famous tshuva, the Gemara says it's kashir kana, which doesn't help us much. We don't know what that means. There's a big machlekes in the Paiskim. Rav Maisha writes it's 3/4 of an inch, which is about 19 millimeters. The Paiskim in Eretz Yisrael are much more machmer. They go down to 8. I think mainstream is 8. Some say even 5. So they're way more machmer than here in America. So again, about 19 millimeters.
It happens like that?
Huh?
By urea, it happens like that, opens?
By urea does not open this much, no. It opens a little bit. Doesn't matter. But over there, it doesn't matter. You have dam. Right. And over here, it's opening without any dam. Now, there's one more nakuda to mention. When the Gemara says "Ein psichas HaMekar b'loi dam," the Gemara is talking about when the Mekar automatically opens for whatever reason. We see the Mekar open, and we didn't see anything come out. And still, we say that, or she felt her Mekar open, right? We say that there had to have been dam, even though we don't see it. What would be the halacha when we were opening the Mekar mibachutz? That's not what the Gemara said. The Gemara was talking about when the Mekar opens up, we assume that it opened up to release dam. And therefore, whether we see the dam or not, we assume there was dam. But who said anything about somebody opening up what's called a psichas HaMekar mibachutz? So, the Noida B'Yehuda is L'chadesh, that if a Raifa is machnas a kli into the Mekar, it's also called a psichas HaMekar, which would be a metam. And even though the Agoras Baruch Tam argues on the Noida B'Yehuda, L'maitza Rav Paiskim nowadays take on for a davar pashut like the Noida B'Yehuda, and we paskin again mainstream psak is that if you open up the Mekar mibachutz, then that would be metame. We assume that there's dam, even if there's no dam. And again, in America, I think most people are like Ramesh have 90 millimeters. 90 millimeters is huge. There is no instrument no instrument that could be used without anesthesia that not that anything that's I would say over probably a centimeter, 10 millimeters or 12 would already be causing tremendous amount of pain to a woman, like should be in gefährlich pain. Again, because this is a muscle that's meant to be closed, and you're forcing it open. So there's no instruments nowadays that are that big.
Is that what Rabbi Moshe means? That such a big opening is going to cause a blood for sure because it's so big?
I don't know where he's coming from. It could be that was the sheer kana that he he decided, but at the end of the day, in those days though, they did have bigger instruments. In Rabbi Moshe's days, things have been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's unbelievable. The loading tube for the IUD that we saw is we'll see momentarily is less than 4 millimeters, 3.7. It's tiny. And again, this is all because we don't, the doctors, the companies don't want the woman to be uncomfortable, right? It's not supposed to cause pain. And this is something that can be done without dilating the cervix. So again, that's that. And one more nakuda is we saw that the cervix has two openings, the os exterior and the os interior. So the shaila is, which one is it? Which one do you need to open in order to have a psichas makar? And they say b'shem Rav Moshe, there's a tshuva from Dayan Padwa, that it's only the os interior. So this is another thing we spoke about. We spoke about pap smear the other time, and we said that pap smear is not a shaila, it's not metame, it's not a psichas makar, it's not maitidamin makar. And again, Vaita, usually they're just scraping from the front of the cervix. But even if you would, let's say, poke a little bit onto the os exterior, onto the outer part, there's no sad that they're going far inside, right? So again, there's never a shaila of a psichas makar or a dam from the makar on a pap smear. So going back to IUD, just to make it clear, if Moshe's 19 millimeters, other places can less down. The thing we said, most loading tubes are under 5, most loading tubes are under 4 millimeters. There's a vaday maka. This is another important thing. We saw that the teeth, right, the tenaculum is causing a maka that's being mitzi dam. So she's going to bleed. She's going to come home and there's going to be blood. She's going to be staining, there's going to be blood on the pad. That's from a maka that we don't have to assume because you have a maka that's vaday mitzi dam, you have a tliya that we could be taila on, and that's not metame her. Even if it's bigger than a gris, it would not be metame her. It has to, is an important nakuda, it has to be in alignment with the makkah. That means that if this woman comes home and she gets a period, right, she sees a flow, right, that would soak a pad, then you can't be titled of that on the makkah. It has to stem with the makkah, right? So if the makkah is, something that would bleed, and you can have a decent amount of more than a gris. It's not going to soak a pad. It's not going to be like a flow like she would have when she's getting a period. But anything less than that, she could be titled. A lot of times the dam will mix with the mucus, and it'll look like a lot more than it really is, and that's fine. And that's something that you could be titled on. We spoke to many doctors. The consensus is that it'll usually heal on its own in 2 days. It'll stop bleeding on its own in 2 days. It takes about 5 days to heal fully. The hainu that if she's busy making bedikas during those first 5 days, she's not allowing it to heal. You're supposed to leave it alone, let it heal. But if she keeps on chopping it, that might be a problem. So even if she makes bedikas, depends when she put it in or whatever, but try to avoid the cervix when making a bedika for whatever reason.
This is talking about the insertion process, but the metzias of the IUD is that it's creating inside the inflammation. Does that result in more mucus and discharge?
So we'll talk about it in a second. That's a good question. Just one more nakuda in the insertion part, and that is what's called the uterine sound. Some doctors don't do this bichlal. Some doctors do use it, and that is a plastic stick that they stick in before just to measure how far they're going to go in with the actual IUD. they don't know how far to go, sometimes when they put in the IUD, right, they take a stick and they push it out of the tube, right? So if they're too far up inside, they can end up pushing the tube into the roof, mamish, literally into the basar of the woman's uterus. And we've had cases like that where mamish just punctures the uterus, and the crazy stories. So they have to know. A lot of times they do it with ultrasound, so you don't need this. But some doctors will use a uterine sound. Now, if it's done very gently, it shouldn't make a difference. But if they do poke the other side of the uterus, that could mamish cause dam inside, and then you would have a serious shaila of when you know that there's dam coming from the makar itself. So again, this is something that you have to see if they use one. If it came out with blood, could be that there would be a tzad to be machmir. Could be you still have a tliya because could be got the blood from the tenaculum on the way out. So it's not that's yesh paiskim. Everyone should ask their own rav. I know there are rabbanim that are machmir. If the uterine sound comes out with blood, but if it doesn't, then avada one could be mekel that the insertion of a IUD is not metamein, and even if she stains afterwards, you have a kliya, maka that's vade matzidam, and therefore I personally would advise women who are putting in an IUD, put in the day after the mikvah. Put in the day after once you start. Like this, even though, and this is where we're going to get into the staining aspect of the IUD.
Does she have to look at it, halachically?
Look at the uterine sound?
If it's bleeding?
I don't know if you have to look at it. I don't know, because you have so many kliyas anyways. There's a very good side that the blood is anyways coming from the makkah that was created by she's bleeding from the, there's two things that are literally pinching her, her cervix that are causing dam. I don't know. I don't
This is pre-pinching, right? This is a measuring.
No, but they're pinching also. They're pinching over there.
Oh, they're still grabbing it up to be aligned.
They align it, and that's the beginning. And then they start the whole process. Right. So let's speak about the staining. That's the thing. The copper IUD could cause staining from anywhere between a few days, and part of that would be literally the mark on the outside. But a lot of that would be, like you mentioned, the copper IUD is meant to cause inflammation inside the uterus. It causes a slight inflammation, which is how it works. If that being true, it stands to reason that the body is not comfortable, the uterus is not comfortable with this foreign device inside of it, and it will cause staining. The staining could be from anywhere between a few days to a couple months for most women. Now, I've said this for Rabbi, when people come over, what do you mean? My wife, she had it, and she stained. Yes. It's shaykh that some women will never get used to IUD. It happens. Not every woman could insert a foreign object into her uterus, and it comfortably sit there, without any problems. That is true. But again, for most women, it will cause a couple days to a couple weeks of staining. Her body gets used to it, and then she can move on. The mile of having it put in the day after the mikvah is that even if she stains now for the next two weeks, right, 2-3 weeks, she's wearing tivainim, so she doesn't have to have that because she has to become tameh. At least she's going to be tar.
She's down in the car. It's value from the car.
Doesn't matter.
We look at it. We consider it as dam makkah.
We don't look at it as dam. Well, that's a shaila itself.
So what does it help?
It would still be a kesem. It would still be a kesem. You need argasha, yeah. It's not dam argasha, yeah. It's not. Doesn't matter. As long as it's not again a gris on white. Not a problem. Once she gets her period, so like this. A copper IUD is another very important nekuda with copper IUD, and this is something many doctors forget to mention to the woman before putting it in, and that is that it will cause a heavier and longer period. And it could be significantly longer. A woman that was always managed to make a hefsek tire on day 5 will find now that she's only doing it on day 8 or 9, and that could be very significant. And it's going to be much heavier and crappier because you have this foreign object in there, and that when the period comes, it's trying to kind of push it out.
For the full 7 years, like long term.
It's long term. This is long term, meaning after she stops the staining, the body got used to it. When her cycle comes, she will get a heavier cycle. There are solutions for this. Bioflavonoid complex is one of them that works fantastically, It could even cut a day or two from the process. We mentioned bioflavonoid complex. Did we mention bioflavonoid complex or no? No. So bioflavonoid complex mitzvah lefarsem is a pill, a vitamin that is made from peels of citrus fruit, which helps for a lot of staining issues, light staining issues. What it does is it strengthens the small blood vessels. And taking 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day, in this situation she would take it even before she gets her period, right? When she's 3-4 days before she's expecting her cycle, she should start taking it 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day. And she'll see that before she made a hefsek tire on day 9, now she's able to make it on day 7, right? So it could cut away almost 2 days very nicely without any prescription medication. There is prescription medication as well. There's other things that she could do, which is not the scope of this year. It's called Tarenu. Huh?
Without pills, without anything. Also,
Absolutely. This could help for staining. Absolutely. Mitzvah lefarsen. I'll tell you a short story. We're running out of time. We had the schus of sitting with the Rishon Belsky Zatzal. We're going around to all the Rabbanim for Tarenu. So we're discussing, he was a Velt Yad and he knew everything about everything. And so we were schmoozing about this bioflavonoid complex. So he smiles, he tells us that he had a Talmud, tells us 40 years ago, he had a Talmud that had terrible nosebleeds. And they tried cauterizing it, they tried creams, they tried all sorts of things, nothing helped. So he said he felt bad for Talmud, he started doing the research, and he came up with bioflavonoid complex. Take bioflavonoid complex, and what it does is pashut mechazik the small blood vessels. And he started taking bioflavonoid complex, never had a problem again.
Is it a probiotic of some kind?
It's not a probiotic at all. No, it's like vitamin C, but it's not vitamin C. It's a lot. Maxi Health sells it with vitamin C. We say it's good to get like the ones that don't come with vitamin C because you have to take a high dose. It's 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day. Frida has, Solgar has, a bunch of other companies have just the bioflavonoid complex, 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day, and that really does the trick. Again, this is not the Havlavai. This was the solution for all staining. It's not. It works for light staining very, very nicely. Okay. Mirena. Now let's talk a little bit about the Mirena. Mirena, we said, was the hormonal IUD, the one that has this levonorgestrel, right? The hormone. It's just progesterone. It releases the progesterone inside the uterus, and it lasts for 5 years. Skylar, now they have one that's called Skylar. It's good for 3 years. They have different companies now, but that's the gist of it. Now, with Harenu Hotline, we get daily also. Mirena is one of the things that causes staining. And we try, we speak to doctors whenever we can. We try to get this out as much as possible. That for a young woman, before the age of, I would say, 40, there's no reason for her, again, I shouldn't say no reason. She should know that if she's getting a Mirena, there might be staining for 6 to 9 months. Doctors push it a lot because the package says that you might not get your period. Right? What it does is it slowly thins down the lining until a woman doesn't have a lining bichlal, and a lot of women either will get like a very light period, some women won't get a period bichlal. But it takes 6 to 9 months for the body to get there. And for those 6 to 9 months, a woman could be constantly getting like mamish 6 months without a mikvah. We've had this all the time. Kiss Seder. So there are Baruch Hashem solutions. Called Harenu. There's different medications that one can take and things to do. 100%. It does have its uses. Mirena has its uses even for a woman in her young years, not. But later on, especially when a woman get into the perimenopause stage, which is the stage when sometimes a woman could get her period every 2 weeks, and just very heavy bleeding the whole time. As a woman's hormones start changing, that's a whole different sugya. But Lamaisa, this could help thin things out, and it could be very helpful for women in that stage in life. So Vada, there is a place and time for everything, and that would be a place where to use it. There is another procedure called tying the tubes, tubal ligation. This is what it looks like. Is this still on? Yeah.
laparoscope projects images of the structures inside your abdomen onto a monitor. Through the other incision, your doctor will pass surgical instruments to grasp your fallopian tubes and close them off using the cutting and tying, blocking, or sealing technique.
So the way it works, we saw ovulation. We saw the ovulation video, right? When a woman ovulates, the egg is grabbed by the fimbriae, which is at the end of the fallopian tube, and the egg travels through the fallopian tube into the uterus, and that's where it can be fertilized. So one of the ways how women would stop from getting pregnant is just cutting the fallopian tube, tying it, cutting it, whatever. This is a heavy shaila in halacha called sirus nashim. It's a permanent solution. There are cases, what? It's like making a woman sterile.
That's what they do in Africa.
What? Could be. They do this in Africa. It's a machlokes if it's a deraisa derabanan. If sirus nashim is deraisa derabanan,
Why would we have a need to do such things? Basically,
To never have kids again.
done.
that's it, it's done. Why would he ever have to do such a thing? There's women that have nebachina machla, that they're done, the doctor said they can never get pregnant again. There's women that, that there's many different reasons why this would be negeya. There is one other type of blocking the tube, which is called esher, which looks like this.
Is
It's
used
very
to deliver a
interesting.
soft, flexible micro insert through the vagina, into the uterus and into each fallopian tube. The spring-like micro insert expands during placement to fit the tube. A small trailing portion of the micro insert remains in the uterus and serves to verify placement. This portion will not irritate the lining of the uterus. Scar tissue grows into the micro insert, usually within 3 months, and forms a barrier so the sperm cannot reach the egg. Then at 3 months, the Esher confirmation test is performed. Dye is inserted into the uterus and an X-ray is taken to confirm placement of the micro inserts, that the tubes are blocked, and that you can rely on the Esher micro inserts for birth control.
Okay, so this is another mahalach of blocking the tubes. The mile of this one would be that it's shtickle grama. You're putting something in there, and then over 3 months, it closes. Again, these are shilas, these are heavy shilas and halacha that have to be, a person has to ask a shilah, but it's a medical procedure we had a case, a woman that, she had a heavy infertility. They tried 22 times to do IVF, and it was unsuccessful. And nobody could figure out why. In the end, they figured out that there was some sort of reflux, some sort of liquid coming in from the tube back into the uterus, and that was every time destroying the embryo. So what they did was they blocked the tube.
One of them.
The one that was the problem, and then Baruch Hashem, they did another IVF, and she had a successful pregnancy. So again, there's a time and place for everything. Again, this is a serious shaila. It's a shaila, a serious nashim. It's a shaila. It's a derabbanan deraisa.
Medically, this is more safe than an IUD for becoming pregnant, right? It's more less of a chance of getting through it.
Than IUD, probably. Yeah, but it's permanent. All these are permanent. Even this one. Again, there have been times when women have had procedures to try to undo it, but a woman that's doing it is doing it out permanent. Could it be undone? Maybe, possibly, halfway unsuccessfully. Like it's done as a permanent thing. We have 2 minutes left. Let's just talk about spermicides. There's a bunch of types of spermicides: suppositories, form, gel, film, diaphragm, sponge. So suppositories, important that they have to be put in 15 minutes before. Again, a spermicide, just a quick recap, a spermicide is a type of chemical that is inserted into isay makayim before tashmish. Specifically, the suppositories have to be at least 15 minutes before tashmish, so they have to melt. And what it does is, the name suggests, it's spermicide. It kills the sperm, kills zera. As we'll see, I don't know if we'll get to it, but some paiskim are machmer not to use it, because it's like sheifach, eitzim bavanim, because the zera is being killed. I would say many paiskim are makel to use it. And the reason for it, as was mentioned, is because there's foam, there's film, Now there's something called a diaphragm or a cervical. They're not available anymore. Cervical caps, and there's something called a sponge that you could find. Now when if a Rav gives you a heter for spermicide, he's not giving you a heter for a sponge. A sponge has spermicides in it, but it also mamish sits on the top of the cervix and blocks it. And this is mamish a serious shayla in halacha. So, right, a heter for spermicides is not a heter for sponge. Sponge is a serious shayla in halacha. I would say many to most places can say it's also to use a sponge, but they put it in the section with the spermicides in the pharmacy. So you have to know if you're getting spermicides, that's not what you're supposed to be getting. The thing with the spermicides is that it's very ineffective. Right. We just to mention, right? We didn't mention at the beginning of this year. I mentioned at the beginning of last year. We're speaking about birth control openly. All birth control, all contraception needs a heter. Right? Just because we're speaking about it, because the people do get a term, they have to know what to do. But this doesn't mean that you could just go and use it without a heter. So major disclaimer, ask a shayla before you're going to do anything. The shayla halacha, which has to be discussed with your local Rav. Suppositories, most poskim say it's permitted to use. A cervical cap, many poskim hold it's not permitted to use, as it acts as a barrier. We said a sponge, most poskim hold that it's not permitted. And we'll end with this.
It's a one-time use, right?
Lady, I'm sorry, what?
It's one-time use.
Spermicides are one-time use. Now, what I want to point out, which is very important, is that spermicides are only about 82% effective. It means that it's not really effective, right? So I would very much discourage, people from using spermicides.
What does 82% mean unaffected?
82% of the time it will work, and the rest of the time, right, 18% not. You're taking a pretty big chance, 1 in 5, that it's not going to work. So it's really not meant for most situations. Sometimes a woman after pregnancy, she was nursing, and now or whatever it is, in conjunction with nursing, could be it's better. She really, it's after 6 months after birth, and she really doesn't mind to get pregnant. It's not like Ekvel, so fine to use spermicides. But at the end of the day, spermicides alone is not an effective type of birth control. Pills and NuvaRing, IUDs are all okay. And that concludes this year. Thank you very much. Sorry for the lateness.
What else besides this one is a one-time use birth control? One-time use, not a long-term birth control.
What else is a one-time use?
Anybody?
I think that's it.
Spermicides is the only.
Which you didn't speak about because it's not nobody else.
The spermicide is the only one. It has any side effects?
Huh?
It has any side effects?
Some women do feel burning things.
And
it burns. There's nothing to do with it.
Which one of these things make ladies gain weight, or none of them? Do you know that?
They say it's a myth. Combination.
I've heard
Yeah, they say it's a myth.
IUD guard is the safest as far as side effects?
IUD, the copper IUD.
The copper IUD is the
least amount of side effects. There's no hormones in it.
What side effects does it have?
Just the staining.
Just the staining.
Well, what is
I'm sorry, I had to walk out in the middle, but something urgent that I didn't take care of. I usually never.
What is shepherd's purse? What is shepherd's purse? What does it accomplish?
Shepherd's purse, I have no idea. Someone would say that they have heard. Of course I heard it.
Doesn't act as a blood like it?
I mean, he spoke about stuff. I'm not sure all the terms.
Causes blood staining. That's what they say.
That's what they say. I don't know if it's or not. Some people swear.